Well, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. My name is Pat Andre Jennings, and I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Instructional Services. Next slide, please. We do have translation available tonight, and I would like to ask the translator to provide the directions in Spanish for those who are on the call who are Spanish speaking. Claudia, can you share the directions?
Thank you. Thank you. Sí, buenas tardes a todos. Los servicios de interpretación van a estar disponibles para la junta del día de hoy. Si pueden poner atención en la parte inferior de su pantalla en medio, existe un símbolo de mundo, como lo pueden ver en esta flecha. Pueden hacer clic, un chasqueo, y después elegir el idioma de español, y toda esta junta sería interpretada, va a ser interpretada simultáneamente. Muchas gracias. Thank you.
Gracias, Claudia. I'm going to give people a few minutes to switch over to the Spanish channel. And good evening again. I'm so grateful for you joining us this evening as we get ready to launch the 2021-22 school year. Tonight, we have an information-filled presentation that will help you to understand the safety protocols that we have put in place or putting in place as we welcome students back full-time in person for the 2021-22 school year. We know that as we return to full-time in-person learning after a year of hybrid learning, that safety is number one in families' minds. So tonight we hope to provide you with additional information so that you know that Napa Valley Unified is not only ready, but we are prepared to welcome your children back this year. You will, next slide, please. Oh, sorry, go back, Joe, sorry. Tonight, you will hear from Mike Mansway, the Director of Student Services, along with Erica Wiley, the school liaison from Napa County Public Health, and Mike Pearson, the Assistant Superintendent of Operational Services. Now we can go to the next slide, and Mike Mansway will take it away from here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Assistant Superintendent Andre Jennings. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for making the time to be here and understand where we are heading in terms of our COVID-19 safety precautions for the 21-22 school year. Just as a reminder, tonight's presentation is being recorded, and we will make this available on our NVUSD YouTube channel. The guidance we're sharing with you this evening is the guidance that as a California public school, we are required to follow. It comes from California Department of Public Health. Just as a reminder, this guidance is continually updated and revised by California Department of Public Health based on the latest scientific evidence and data. So we're currently there were several questions submitted ahead of time around activities such as band, choir, drama, athletics. We are currently awaiting guidance for those other school-related activities. We've been told that that's going to be coming out soon, but we don't have answers around those activities yet. Also, one of our close partners in this work is Napa County Public Health. Next slide, please.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me on. So Napa County Public Health recognizes that attending school in person has critical benefits for children's learning and mental health. Public Health has worked closely with Napa Valley Unified School District to implement plans for a safe, successful, and full in-person school year. Our experience during school reopenings from the 2020-2021 school year demonstrated that school safety protocols were extremely effective in preventing transmission of COVID-19, and that the vast majority of infections in children occurred due to exposure to family members or friends outside the school setting. Both the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the California Department of Public Health recognize that students benefit from in-person learning and have developed the 2021-2022 school guidance to help prevent transmission of COVID-19, including the more transmissible Delta variant. masking, health screenings, increased ventilation, and vaccination of those who are eligible are the current measures being implemented in schools to ensure the health and safety of students. Masks are one of the most effective and simplest safety measures to prevent in-school transmission. CDPH will continually assess COVID-19 health and safety measures and make updates to the guidance as needed. Napa County Public Health will continue to work closely with the school district to track and respond to COVID-19 exposures within schools and provide guidance on health and safety practices. Thank you, and we look forward to continue working with you this school year.
Thank you very much. And that was Erica Wiley, who is the school liaison, and she works with Napa County Public Health. And I just want to point out that we have a very strong partnership with Napa County Public Health, and we work very closely with Erica and other public health staff to interpret the latest public health guidance and to assist us with tracing, quarantines, and isolation decisions. So thank you very much, and we appreciate you being here this evening, Erica. Next slide, please. So as we get into the guidance, I want to point out that the foundational principle of the guidance is exactly what we have on this slide. It's that all students must have access to safe and full in-person instruction and to as much instructional time as possible. Next slide. So as Erica alluded to, the number one mitigation strategy that will be used in schools has to do with masks. And for masks, students are required to mask indoors, regardless of vaccination status. Adults are required to mask when sharing an indoor space with students, regardless of vaccination status. When outdoors, masks are optional for everyone. And I want to address one of the questions submitted had to do with why aren't masks going to be required outdoors? And so I did pose that question to Dr. Relucio, who is our Napa County Public Health Director. And she was not able to be here tonight, but she shared some information with me that a systematic review that was published in February in the Journal of Infectious Diseases found that less than 10% of all COVID-19 cases were transmitted in outdoor settings, and that the risk of transmission indoors was almost 20 times higher than it was outside. So another question was brought up about, well, what about PE classes? And PE classes will follow the same guidance. When they are indoors, they will be masked. When outdoors, they will be wearing face coverings, but students will be distanced to the greatest extent possible. Next slide, please. Persons who are exempt from masking due to documented medical conditions must wear an alternative such as a face shield with a drape as their condition permits. And again, this is per the California Department of Public Health guidance. I just want to be clear that Napa Valley Unified School District does not create its own guidance. We are required to take direction from entities like Napa County Public Health and our California Department of Public Health, the experts in public health. Next slide, please. So in terms of masks, students who fail to bring a mask or forget to bring their mask, the schools will provide masks, but we are also required to enforce the mask requirements. So we will be doing that, and we have created a protocol to do that. Next slide, please. Just like last year, we're going to continue to teach and reinforce frequent hand washing, especially before and after eating, after using the restroom, handling garbage, and also reminding students to avoid contact with eyes, nose, and mouth. Next slide, please. Distancing is, per the guidance from California Department of Public Health, is no longer required when other mitigation strategies such as masking are being implemented. Next slide, please. The screening, we're going to be using a home-based screening system. It's not going to be an electronic system like you used before, where students who were attending in person had to submit that morning an electronic survey. This is going to be a at-home, on your own self-screening system, and we have a self-screening tool that will be made available on our website, and we will send that out to our families. Next slide, please. But in general, you know, the COVID-19 symptoms we want parents to screen their children for before sending them to school are fever or chills, cough, shortness of breath or difficulty breathing, fatigue, muscle or body aches, headache, new loss of taste or smell, or sore throat. Next slide, please. So if your child has any of those symptoms, please do not send them to school, and contact the school and let them know, and they'll provide guidance from there. If your child does not have those symptoms, of course, we want you to send him or her to school. Next slide. There were several questions that were brought up around quarantine protocols. The quarantine protocols, I'll be honest, are a little more complex than they were last year. Factors that are taken into consideration right now have to do with whether or not students are masked or not masked at the time of an exposure. Also, whether or not students are vaccinated or not vaccinated. So as an example, a vaccinated student quarantine, if a student who's fully vaccinated is exposed to a positive case, they can skip the quarantine if they're asymptomatic. So there's a good reason for us to get students who are eligible, 12 and up, vaccinated, because as long as they're asymptomatic, they can skip the quarantine. Next slide, please. That same example for an unvaccinated student, well, it depends on whether or not they were masked. If they were not masked at the time of the exposure, then they will have to quarantine. If they were masked, there are other measures. As long as they're asymptomatic, they can attend school, but they'll have to be tested twice weekly in order to attend school for the next 2 weeks. Next slide. Like I said, there's a lot to these quarantine protocols, and we don't have the time to go over all of them with you, but we will be posting this information and new information as we get it, and as the guidance changes or gets updated, we'll be posting that on our website. And we have started and will continue to add to a question and answer document that's located. You can find the link for it on the NVUSD homepage. Next slide, please. Isolation protocols. Isolation protocols are what we do when a student or staff member actually is positive for COVID-19. So if you're symptomatic for COVID-19, if you have any of those symptoms that I read off before, you can discontinue your isolation when at least 10 days have passed since the beginning of the symptoms. 24 hours have passed without a fever and without fever reducing medication, and any other symptoms have improved. Next slide, please. If you're asymptomatic and you've tested positive, and asymptomatic means you don't have any of those symptoms, you can discontinue your isolation when at least 10 days have passed since the date of that first positive COVID test. Of course, if symptoms develop, then we have to go back and follow the symptomatic protocol. Next slide, please. There were some questions about absences. Our regular pre-COVID attendance policies will apply to absences that are related to COVID-19 and COVID-like symptoms. So we have to follow that state guidance, and so that it is our regular attendance policies. Distance learning will not be provided for absences in the 2021 school year. So it's very important that when your child is absent for any reason, whether it's COVID-19 related or not, to contact the school to arrange for missed work. Next slide. Visitors. Non-essential visitors must be fully vaccinated and must follow all school safety protocols. And that goes for things like classroom volunteers as well. For an example of a safety protocol means when indoors, you have to wear a mask. And I would now like to turn it over to Assistant Superintendent Mike Pearson to talk about some operational protocols that are in place.
Thank you, Mr. Mansway, and good evening, MVUSD parents and guardians. Really happy to have this opportunity to speak to all of you about the upcoming school year and from the perspective of operational services. Before I begin and start talking about things such as ventilation, and Joe, if you could go to the next slide, I do want to point out to everybody on the Zoom call, that Zoom webinar tonight, that many of the things you're going to hear about tonight are very similar to what we instituted last year. We have responded to the guidance that has been provided to us through various organizations such as OSHA, CDC, California Department of Public Health, as well as our own local public health agency here. And as needed, we will adjust our protocols, particularly around making sure that the students and staff are safe on campuses as needed. But for the time being, we are going to continue with many of the similar things that we had instituted last year. So on that note, with ventilation, our HVAC systems will continue to be set to pull in as much fresh air as possible. Doors and windows that are operable can be opened to continue to bring in fresh air. We have changed our filter replacement from every 6 months to every 3 months, and we'll continue to do that. And then we have placed air purifiers in classrooms that do not have the latest and greatest HVAC system. So I know many of you are aware of the MERV ratings out there. There's MERV rating filters from 7 to 13, and we do have school sites now that have the MERV 13 systems in place. And so we will not be placing air purifiers in them because the MERV 13 filters are extremely effective with these new HVAC systems that we have there. But any other sites, we will be placing air purifiers in classrooms that don't already have them. But like I said, most of them do as well. Please, next slide, please. From a cleaning standpoint, the guidance has changed on this. So from the CDC, the guidance now is that cleaning once a day is sufficient to remove the potential virus that may be on surfaces. There's a very low transmission rate of the virus on surfaces, which is what the science now is telling us. So we will be doing a disinfecting once a day, and it'll be done at night, the surfaces at night, whereas we had done that intermittently throughout the school day last year. Our custodial staff will resume an AEB schedule, and I won't go into the details what an AEB schedule is, but we will be using our electrostatic sprayers each night to disinfect surfaces in classrooms. Restrooms and other high-touch areas and surfaces will be cleaned more frequently throughout the day, and we will have a system in place, a schedule in place for that to happen. And then we have, in this particular presentation, you'll see that we've linked in what cleaning means, what sanitizing mean, and what disinfecting protocols means as well too. And I have to apologize for me, I'm in my office, but there's somebody with a vacuum cleaner. Sorry. Okay, next slide, please. With alcohol wipes, last year we instituted that secondary students could use alcohol wipes and that to wipe down a tabletop and or chair at the beginning of a class period. We will continue to supply secondary sites with this with these alcohol wipes and ask them if they would like to do that. It's not mandatory, but it will be an option for them. But as a reminder, students cannot use disinfecting wipes at any time. We cannot hand out a disinfecting wipe to a student to wipe down a tabletop or a chair. That's why we settled on the alcohol wipes. The reason we do this at secondary is because of the changing the number of students that will be changing over the course of a day, obviously, whereas in the elementary schools that's not the case. They're sitting in their classrooms. In most instances, in 99% of the instances, they're sitting in their classrooms throughout the school day. Next slide, please. Hand sanitizer. So we do have up in all classrooms wall-mounted hand sanitizer dispensers. Those will continue to stay up, and if we need to put more up, we will do that. We also have outside hand sanitizer stations that are big plastic barrels, which have the wall-mounted hand sanitizers on the outside of the barrels, and those have been delivered to the school sites, and they will also be around and about on the campuses. We're encouraging sites to put those out in front of the restrooms and stuff, so that students, even after they've washed their hands when using the restroom, they can also use the hand sanitizer. And then hand sanitizer will also be placed in key locations such as in the offices, cafeterias, multi-purpose rooms, and in the gymnasiums as well too, to encourage good hand hygiene. Food service, next slide, please. So with food service, again, the guidance has changed on this. There is no need to limit food service approaches to the single-use items and our packaged meals is what we did last year. And this also includes the salad bars. So we are planning at this point to operate our food service program as we would in a normal school year. We will be promoting the hand washing and the sanitizing before and after eating, as Mr. Mansway had discussed earlier. And we will be, sites will be trying their best to do the maximizing the physical distance as much as possible while the students are eating and coming into the cafeteria as well as eating. The guidance does suggest that we should use additional spaces outside of the cafeteria, so outside for students to eat, to help facilitate the distancing, as well as you can put students in the classrooms, even went as far as saying putting them in gyms, but to help maintaining that physical distancing as much as possible. We do have 4 school sites that qualify for what we call the community eligibility program. And those sites are listed there on this particular slide. And they have breakfast in the classroom programs, and we've settled on allowing K3 students to eat their breakfast in the cafeterias, but 4-6 can eat their breakfast in the classroom. Next slide, please. As a reminder to all parents on this particular Zoom webinar, and please spread this word to everybody, the meals for next year are free to all students. So all students can eat meals for free, regardless of their income level. So you don't need to present anything special or anything like that to eat a meal in MVUSD next year. And this is actually throughout the state of California. So this is good for the 21-22 school year. So we really hope that students and staff will also partake in our excellent meals that we are offering through our central kitchen and in our food service program. However, we do need parents, and I know this seems contradictory in the sense that, we're offering, the state of California is offering meals for free. The federal government still requires us to have parents fill out what's called the alternative household income form. And so we will still be asking parents and guardians to do this. And the main reason we're asking you to do this is that it establishes our funding level as a school district. So it's really important that we get as many parents as possible and guardians as possible to fill out this form to then establish the funding levels for Napa Valley Unified School District on that. Next slide, please. On transportation, if your son or daughter rides a bus, they will be asked to wear a mask and or face covering while riding on any school bus or charter bus, and this includes for any extracurricular activities as well. If the windows are operable, they should also be slightly open to allow for movement of air. If your child qualifies for special education services, you can check in with, and they have received transportation in the past, we would encourage you to check in with the case carrier. And if your son or daughter does not receive special education services, but you want to know if your transportation is offered for your particular child, you can go onto the website and there should be a link for the transportation, and or you can call the transportation office to learn more about that. There is not a slide on this next one but I do want to make sure that everybody does know that we will be tomorrow. We are speaking with all of our site managers and discussing with them. Also, we had them develop what we call a COVID-19 school site specific plan. And they will be doing a very similar exercise this year to demonstrate how they plan to also institute these things I've just mentioned, as well as to ensure that staff and students are safe at all times while on campuses. And then they will be posting this plan on the website, and it is available for parents to view to see what is being done on the school site. I think that's it, and I will turn it back to you, Mr. Mansway.
I need to unmute. Thank you very much, Mr. Pearson. I wanted to make sure to let everyone know that as I alluded to earlier, we do work very closely with Napa County Public Health, and we're partnering with them to host some vaccination clinics at our school sites through the beginning of school and into the fall at least, and maybe more beyond that as needed. 2 for sure that we have agreed on starting next I think it's Tuesday, August 10th at Phillips Elementary, 3 to 5 p.m. and then for the first dose, and then August 31st, 3 to 5 p.m. for the second dose of the vaccine. This is for ages 12 and up, anyone who is eligible for the vaccine. We will also be hosting a vaccine clinic at Harvest Middle School. The dates for that, dose 1 on August 11th and second dose September 1st, same times, 3 to 5 p.m. And to sign up for those opportunities, I don't think it's up on myturn.ca.gov yet, but it will be, I believe, tomorrow. Napa County Public Health will get that up there, and you'll be able to register online. We will have additional vaccine clinic school sites and dates, and we will push those out through our normal channels, through Parent Square and on our website as we get those. So please stay tuned and pay attention to that. Really, our goal is to get as many students and adults who are eligible for the vaccine to get them fully vaccinated. That's our best bet to keep schools safe and to keep them open. Next slide, please, Joe. I will point out that there's, if you go to our website, we're going to continually update the information on our website. I also want to share some information that I got from Dr. Relucio. I just want to put this out there since she couldn't be there. Something she pointed out to us is that the effect of virtual learning that we had last year had a negative impact on kids from both an academic and a socio-emotional perspective. And there have been more pediatric injuries and medical conditions that have resulted from being outside of the school setting. And she says now schools are able to reopen safely using layered mitigation measures such as vaccination, universal masking, symptom screening, and ventilation. And this has been demonstrated in several studies. Additionally, students are under adult supervision, which makes it more likely to ensure that safety measures are followed. More transmission of COVID-19 comes from out of school social mixing. So I wanted to share that with you as kind of the closing remark from Dr. Relucio. And then at this point, I'm going to turn it back over to Assistant Superintendent Pat Andre-Jennings.
Thank you, Mr. Mansway and Mr. Pearson for sharing a ton of information to families. This is being recorded, so it will be posted on the website, so families will be able to access it and view it again if that's helpful. Also, as Mr. Mansway pointed out, we received some questions that we're not able to address all of them tonight, but there is going to be an FAQ, frequently asked question list on our website that will hopefully answer some of the questions that you had. We did receive some concerns around from elementary families regarding because students aren't able to get vaccinated 12 and under regarding the safety issue. And as Mr. Mansway shared, Dr. Relucio said that if you use the mitigation strategies, there's been research to show that the transmission doesn't happen as easily at the elementary level. We also held a summer school program that had almost 2,000 students attend over this past summer and at the elementary level, and we were able to keep students safe. For those families who are still have some concerns or they feel like their child's health or safety would be at risk by attending full-time in-person school, we are hosting tomorrow a session at 7 o'clock for independent study. And that is the option for families who feel that there might be some health or safety issue with their child attending school in person. So thank you so much for joining us this evening. I appreciate you. I hope you've had a wonderful, relaxing, restorative, fun-filled summer. And we look forward to having you come back to school on August 18th. Any last word? I think were you going to share anything else, Mr. Mansway?
No, I was not. I think that positive closing message was very good. I do appreciate we had, I think we have over 300 people, I think, tuning in, which says a lot. People are interested, they care, really thrilled about that. And thank you for being here. And our commitment is we will do everything we can to keep our students safe within the guidance that we're given. And we will continue to provide updates on our website.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a perfect way to end. You guys have a wonderful evening.